Welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland, occupied home of the satirical Saltire. A happy St Andrew's Day to everybody that's watching online, or if you're watching at home, or even on the recording. I hope you had a nice St Andrew's Day. We're going to start this evening's special Clans, Myths and Legends special with a short clip that details, gives you a wee view of most of the clans in Scotland up until 1707. I say most because I noticed that there was at least one, and Frankie picked up on one also, so this is for a wee catch up. This takes care of the clans part of our Clans, Myths and Legends. Right, so as you'll see, there's no sound, or you'll hear there's no sound, but we have just a wee diagram there of the clans going through the years. Frankie, you've joined us this evening. You're going to be doing a couple of things. Vulgar Vandals, etc. is going to make a wee appearance.
Have the world debut of the Vulgar Vandals on live stream.
Excellent, excellent. I can't wait to get involved in that. Or well, I can't wait to see it and be a part of it, should I say. And then we've also got Farah joining as well this evening. So hi Farah, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm really good. I was looking forward to this. Happy St Andrew's Day.
Happy St Andrew's Day to you guys too. You know, I'm a bit. I'm looking at all the colourful map of the clans. I'll have to adopt a clan, or I'll have to get a Hamid clan.
Well, there's things about clans as we'll see going through that. What we're going to talk about a wee bit about clans, some myths and some legends. We don't have any sponsorship here at Tweet Street. We never do. Even if it was MedPro that was looking to give us a bung, we told Michelle Moan no thanks. But
welcome along to Tweet Street.
We'll stop that here at a minute because that'll go into the next part of our Clans, Myths and Legends special. We'll be talking to Susan, who is an independent supporter, a long-time independent supporter. And she's going to tell us a wee bit about her clan. So we'll be doing a wee bit about that. And then after that, we'll be doing a wee bit with Farah telling us a wee bit about a myth that I certainly wasn't aware of, and I'll be telling folk about a couple of myths and some legends, and there'll be a wee bit of footage as well because we've done a wee bit. Tweet Street done a wee bit of a road trip up to Inverness through the week, or at the weekend, sorry. So we'll maybe feature a wee bit about that also. So we're going to start with the first part of our clans, which is, as I say, it was Susan talking about two clans really, but this is the first part of it. Occupied home of the satirical Saltire. Happy St Andrew's Day. We've got Susan to send to Scotland, who's a long-time independent supporter, and she's going to tell us a wee bit about Clans, Myths and Legends special, so she's going to tell us a wee bit about the clan that Susan would say that she belongs to. So, Susan, thanks for joining us. Happy St Andrew's Day.
Hi, thank you, Peter.
Right, hold on. I'm getting tell that you can't see that, so I'll do that again, folks. Before we do, we've got a new guest waiting to enter the waiting room. So I'd hoped that I'd invited this guest the last time that they showed, and I'd hoped that they would show up this evening because, well, you'll see for it in a wee second. I'll stop this here and we'll just change the view ever so slightly because we've got Pete Wishart joining us. So I would like to say hi to Pete. Pete Wishart. Is your mic on, Pete? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Peter?
Aye, you're coming
I
across
was just
the.
saying there, the man, the myth, the legend. You
Well,
want to
aye.
see him?
It's a Clans Myths and Legends special tonight. So it's more bellend than legend, if you ask me. Talking about
Oh.
bellend, what's that in your trousers?
Oh, I was making dinner earlier on. Sorry about that.
All
I
right, you
forgot.
dropped that, right? Aye, thanks very much for joining us.
Aye, you're very welcome. It's good to be here. Got a few folk going to see, aye.
Aye, well, we've got a couple of here representing. We're having folk joining us later on after the Clans Myths and Legends for it's Sovereign Scots St Andrew's Day response for Descent Scotland are going to be joining us live, and we're going to be doing some burnings across the country of some of the documents. But aye, it's good that you've kept to your word here, Pete, and you've come back
Aye.
on.
Well, you says you were looking for a legend, so how could I not say
Aye,
aye?
well, as I said earlier, it's mere bellend than legend, but you're close. I know that time's valuable to you, and you'll be doing other things
Yeah.
for St Andrew's Day. I want to say happy St Andrew's Day to you from one Scot to one Westminster celebratory 21 years, and now that you're starting to feel that there's a wee bit of institutional bullying. That's what we elected you 21 years ago,
Aye.
didn't it, for to deal with that for us, you know. But no, hopefully
Aye.
you've woke
Well,
up.
we're trying our best. We're trying our best, Peter, but it's quite hard. I've been away down at the gym, been getting a wee bit kind of heavy. That's why I've got my blue lycras on.
Right.
And I'm just
No.
trying to shift some of this. It's all that gravy, you know what
Aye.
it's like.
It's like the carrots and gravy and all that fine meat that you're accustomed to, and the Tory dining that you do. I mean,
Aye.
there is a way that you could do it. You know that, Pete, if the First Minister or the person that's in place in Scotland is the representative of the administration, Nicola Sturgeon, resigned and then recalled all the MPs, we could have a Scottish election, and instead of waiting 2 years, is that no like what's the
Well,
crack with
you
that?
see, that all sounds fine and dandy, but really that's not the way to go. You need to keep voting for us. I mean, we have to do it the lawful way, the way we'll be recognised by law. So if you just vote SNP, I'm really sorry, I did say 3 and 23. It's not looking likely. Fingers crossed it might still happen, but in 25, vote for the SNP. I promise you, we will bring your independence. And I'll be a wee bit thinner by then, hopefully.
Right. Thanks very much, Pete. Well, listen, I know, as I say, you've got to be busy the night on St Andrew's Day. Well, I want to say happy St Andrew's Day. Enjoy the rest of your night. And thanks very much for joining us.
You're very welcome, Peter. I'm away to a Cayley now, so the wife's up the stair getting herself sorted. So you enjoy your night. Happy St Andrew's Day to you and the rest of your guests. Take care, Peter.
Thanks very much, Pete. Well, there you go. A flying visit there. A flying visit there for Pete Wishart. So that's a wee bit. At least they kept his word. They said they would come on. Right, we're going to get back in because that was a wee interruption. I wasn't expecting it to come on, but fair play. Right, so we're going to get back into Susan and the Stuart clan. We're just starting to talk about the Stuart clan. So here we go. I'll replay that first wee bit just so that you don't miss anything. Occupied home with satirical satire. Happy St Andrew's Day. We've got Susan from Central Scotland, who's a long-time independence supporter, and she's here to tell us a wee bit about well, it's Clans, Myths and Legends special. So she's going to tell us a wee bit about the clan that Susan would say that she belonged to. So Susan, thanks for joining us. Happy St Andrew's Day.
Hi, thank you, Peter. La Neuve Andra Sonagu, Ahuludunya. Happy St Andrew's Day, everybody, and I hope it's a good one for you. So today I'm going to talk about the Stuart clan.
Excellent. Well,
and all about when it started. So because everything never existed before, did it? And then all of a sudden it did. when you think about clan names, you never imagine that at one time there never was a name like that. But with the Stuarts, it started apparently in the 1100s. And it started with King David I, because all of a sudden he noticed that he didn't have enough earls and he didn't have enough knights to fight his battles or to keep him safe, you know, to be his bouncer kind of thing, you know.
Right.
So he realized he was running a bit short. They were all dying off, or, you know, there was disease and all the rest of it in the 1100s. And so he thought, right, well, what do I do here? I have to get some more earls and some more knights, because, you know, I've got a few battles coming up, and, you know, I want people that have got a bit of muscle, you know, that are able to you know.
A bit like the new, is it not a wee bit like the new in terms?
Well, maybe, yeah, and you know, if you're thinking of prime ministers and kings and queens and that kind of thing, you know, they all want their peeps around them, don't they? So it was no different for King David. But what they did in those days, they didn't have LinkedIn. He couldn't put in a wee post on social media saying, you know, I've got a position opening for a knight or a, you know, a bouncer, or, you know, what he had to do was he had to go or send letters to other countries and say to them, look, I'm looking for a few hard people, you know, I'm wanting people who, you know, can, you know, fight when the time comes and, you know, stick up for me and that kind of thing. And my offer is you'll get land and maybe, if you're good enough, a title. So he does that, sends out to France, sends out to Ireland, sends down to England, and a few people come up to Scotland. One of them was a wee felly called Walter FitzAlan.
Right.
So he comes up, says, oh, quite fancy that, talks to the wife. What do you think we move up to Scotland, and, you know, I could work for yon, you know, guy up there, David I. So she says, okay then, see what he's got to offer. He goes up, and David says, if you work for me, I'll give you land in Ayrshire and you can build whatever you want there. Okay, it's your land, you can do what you like, but you have to work for me. Okay, and if there's, you know, if there's anything happening, if there's a bit of skirmish here and there down at the border, you have to work for me. He says, can you do that? Walter says, anything you say, I'll do it. So that's what happens. And in 1136, Walter wins a battle for King David. And King David's well impressed and makes him a steward. Okay, so he makes him, he appoints him the steward of the king. And Walter becomes the first steward. So really just somebody that has a title, maybe gets a wee bit more money, maybe gets a wee bit more land, that kind of thing. Seen as a courtier maybe, or just seen as a follower and somebody who's loyal. So Walter must have shown his loyalty in it. And behind you is a picture of King David in all his glory. And there, yep, just as you were going to show, that's Castle Dundonald. And that's where Walter built his castle. And that's still the seat of the Stuart clan. But he wasn't a Stuart then, right? He was just a steward. So it was a doing surname. So some surnames are vocational. So they're attached to your work, what you did. So in the olden days, you were a carter. So you became known as John Carter. And, you know, maybe you were a Fletcher and you made arrows. So then you became a Fletcher and you were known as, you know, Mary Fletcher or whatever. Okay. So the sixth steward, now known as the High Steward, was Robert I, who was Robert the Bruce's father. Right?
Bruce's father.
Aye. So Robert the Bruce was the one that took the name of Stuart. Now, I don't know why he did that, because he had a name. He was Robert de Bruce. Why didn't he call his monarchy house name the House of Bruce? Eh? But he didn't. He decided that since his relatives were all stewards, he's going to, or Stuarts, as Scots would say, he decided to make his royal house the House of Stuarts. And so he was the first Stuart king. And Robert the Bruce actually died in Dundonald Castle. So he always stayed with his he always stayed with his ancestral home, his ancestral lineage, if you like. And that's, he actually died there. I didn't know that, but he did.
Right, so we'll just put a wee stop in there, and we'll come back to Susan in the second part of that very shortly. What we'll do is we'll just change it to speaker view here, and we'll come to Frankie, who's going to just over to you, Frankie. You can inform us and enlighten us.
Okay, I was going to talk a bit about clans and tartans, but first of all, I thought you might be interested. You know how I mooch around the internet researching all sorts of stuff. And I found this report on the clan Barclay. And I thought you might be interested to know a bit. At least that's what I thought before I read it. Having read it, I hope you're still interested in knowing about it. But
let's go. We'll soon find out.
Yeah, there were several Barclay families, originally Normans, that came over, and in the early 14th century, round about the time that Edward of England was thought he had the right to come and conquer Scotland, the Barclay families were really quite prominent, but they were supporters of John Cummin. And he was the guy that Bruce murdered in the church in Dumfries on the altar. And well, there were lots of factions in those days, and the Barclays, well, they didn't actually support William Wallace. They were anti-William Wallace. I hope you're okay with that.
No, but I can't. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and try and do some of that, but I haven't.
It actually gets a bit worse, but they were supporters of John Cummin, and when Cummin was killed, they kind of supported Bruce when he was winning, and then when he wasn't winning, they sort of didn't support him, which I suppose is kind of sensible. You want to support the winning side, I guess, and maybe the worst thing was that they were involved in the capture of Bruce's wife and his daughter, who were captured and handed over to the English, along with a few other prominent women in Bruce's among Bruce's supporters. And medieval knights were supposed to be chivalrous, but I think Edward of England must have skived off when that lesson was going on, because he was really, really nasty to these women. And I suppose the Barclays wouldn't have known that Edward was going to be nasty to the women. A couple of them were put in cages and hung outside the castle wall, inside a cage. I mean, independently in different castles. And they were just left there in these cages in all weathers, no privacy, nothing. And they were there for years. It was a pretty nasty time. But as I say, the Barclays wouldn't have known that was going to happen when they handed the women over. But they kind of all made it up in the end. But the big problem is, as you know, history is written by the winners. Yes. Winston Churchill said a great thing. He said, history will be kind to me because I will write it.
Yeah.
And the history of all that time is written by Bruce's supporters. And because the Barclays were supporters of John Cummin, who incidentally won some big battles against Edward, but we don't hear much about them because history was written by Bruce's supporters. So it's maybe not the most sort of flattering portrait of the Barclay clan, but they would all, I mean, if you're their descendant, Peter, they would all be really, really good people and nice people. And I suppose it's the same nowadays, isn't it? The independence movement has lots of different factions, but somehow or other in the early 14th century, they all muddled along together and finally got rid of the foreign usurper. So there's hope for us, I hope.
Well, yeah. I'm kind of shocked at that. Well done. So
Okay,
well,
but what I was actually going to talk about was, because tonight is about clans,
Yep.
anything you read about clans, you'll almost certainly find the word tartan in the same sentence, if not the same paragraph. Clans and tartans we kind of think of as going together. But it wasn't always the way it is now, with everything all very, very, very stylized, how you get this tartan with this particular clan. Yeah, sure, individual clans would weave the wool that they got from their sheep, and they would dye it using whatever plants they had, and maybe one clan had more of one plant than another clan, so they'd end up with kind of different colored material, but it wasn't all as precise as it became. And it really became the way it is now from the visit of George IV to Scotland in 1822. George IV was a Hanoverian king, and he was really unpopular in London. They used to pay people to go and stand out in the streets and cheer as his carriage went by. But they might as well not have bothered, because the people that cheered him and were paid to do it, their cheers were drowned out by the people who weren't paid at all but went along to boo him. So he really wasn't a popular guy, and he'd had a wife. You may think there are parallels nowadays. I couldn't possibly comment, but he had a wife. He had a wife, and he was reckoned to have treated her very, very badly. When he had his coronation, she wasn't invited, but she turned up anyway and went round all the doors of Westminster Abbey, banging on the doors, and they wouldn't let her in. I mean, coronations then sound a whole lot more fun than they are now, I think. But anyway, George was very unpopular in London, and his minister said to him, "Why don't you go and visit your northern kingdom? I'm sure they would love to see you." And at that point, there hadn't been a king of, well, I mean, he was king of Scotland as well as king of England, and no monarch had visited Scotland for nearly 200 years at that point. So George came up to Edinburgh, and the guy, it was all arranged at very short notice, and the guy that had to organise all the functions and all the special things they had going on was Sir Walter Scott. And Sir Walter Scott's a bit of a mixture, because on the one hand, he wrote wonderful books and he really loved Scotland, and he single-handedly created the tourist industry for Scotland, because his books were translated all over Europe and everybody thought, what a wonderful, wild, romantic place that is. We must go and see it. So he did really genuinely love Scotland. On the other hand, he was a unionist. He was a very right-wing Tory. He didn't want anybody else to have the vote apart from the rich people. And he loved the monarchy. So he was really in his element when he had to organise all the functions and stuff. And he said there was to be a ball and everybody had to wear their own tartan. Now, this was a bit of a problem for some of the Highland clans, because they didn't know what the tartan was. But they had to decide in a hurry what tartan they were going to have. And for some of the lowland clans, it was even worse, because they didn't think they had a tartan, but they thought they'd better make up something quickly. So it was all a bit of a shambles at first. They're all inventing tartans all over the place. But out of that, a whole industry has come, which is very good for Scotland. But I just thought, just to finish up, I'd mention, just because I like these details, a couple of the things that George IV had to do when he came to Edinburgh in 1822. There was one function where all the men had to line up and kiss his hand. And it took 75 minutes for 1,200 men to come, kneel down in front of him, kiss his hand and get up and go away. And then the next one came. Now, I've worked that out. That's 75 minutes and 1,200 men. That's 3.75 seconds per man. So these guys must have had brilliant knees to be able to come and kneel that quickly and get up again that quickly. God, if it was me, I'd still be there the next day, you know. So that was the guys kissing his hand, 3.75 seconds each. Women at a different function, this time they didn't kiss the king's hand. The king kissed the women on the cheek.
Oh, on the cheek. Thank goodness.
So yeah, the cheek of the face, just to make.
Right, I was just thinking it's before 9 o'clock here. I started to
Oh, you
sweat,
probably
Frankie.
would be, yeah.
Is
So-
this guy here? Do you want me to?
Oh, well, I was kind yeah.
All right, sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. Show him now, because I
Right.
was going to say, he got his own tartan. He was told by Sir Walter Scott that he was a Stuart prince. I think you've distorted. He was told he was a Stuart prince, so he could wear the Stuart tartan, and he was put in a. It was a very mini kilt they made for him. It didn't do him any favours because he was a big lad by then, and he had this mini kilt, and he wore pink tights underneath it, because he didn't want quite so much leg on display. So we all know what Scotsmen wear under, or what Scotsmen have under their kilts. But this is what foreign kings have under their kilts. They have pink tights. So for the future, that was a caricature done of him at the time. And when he met the women that he had to kiss their cheek, and it was 75 minutes, and he kissed 457 women, which works out at just about 10 seconds per woman. So the women got longer than the men, but they still had to kind of march up in a line and be kissed. I would love to recreate all of that. Anyway, the king only wore the kilt once. He was supposed to wear it twice, but he chickened out and only wore it once. And the caricature lived with him for the rest of his life, poor lad. But out of that rather shambolic beginning, a whole tartan industry has evolved, and it's been going for 200 years. So I would think that even though it started with people making things up, it's been going for long enough now that we can really claim it as a genuine Scottish tradition. Don't you agree, Peter?
I totally agree, Frankie. I totally agree. We'll stop that share the new, and we'll put it back onto the group.
That's fine. Yeah.
And what we'll say is, because we're going to go back onto the second part of what Susan was talking about, the Stuart clan, which gives us a wee bit more about tartans, and she then goes on to talk about another clan briefly. So we'll do a wee share, and we'll go for here.
So anyway, the Stuarts were no strangers to procreation. Now, compared to the Tudors, right? The Tudors were terrible. They were all ill. They were all, you know, dying of lead poisoning, God knows what. Every bairn they had, they all died, remember?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were terrible for keeping bairns, but the Stuarts had no problems. No problems. Bairns popping out everywhere for the Stuarts, right? So, so eventually there was thousands of Stuarts. Everybody had a steward if they wanted to be known as aristocracy. And so everybody had a steward. And then, of course, that person would take the title, you know, my name is Ian Stewart, you know, and that's how you got loads of stewards. Now, you look at the spelling, Peter, and sometimes you get Stuart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T. And sometimes you get Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T. Do you know why that is?
No, but please inform me.
Well, apparently, way back in the 1100s, or way back when the Stuarts were going over to France, the French didn't have a W in their alphabet. And so when they spelt Stuart, they spelt it phonetically, S-T-U-A-R-T. And of course, when we spelt it as steward with a W.
Hold on a wee second. Frankie, what are you doing?
Oh, I was just going to go and make myself a cup of tea.
No, you can't.
Why? And just make myself a cup of tea?
No, you can't. You're not allowed.
Why not? But I'm in my own house. I just make myself a cup of tea. Eh?
Listen.
Wait a minute.
You don't
Why can I not make myself a cup of tea?
Because you don't even exist up there. right?
What?
This place doesn't exist. Have you not seen this?
I'm
Right,
just going to make myself a cup of tea.
right. So,
And that's ridiculous, isn't it? Because, of course, I can make myself a cup of tea if I want. But so is the Supreme Court ridiculous by saying Scotland cannot choose its own future. And Peter, have you got the thing off your face? Yes, you have.
yeah.
No, he just looks like that.
I always
No,
look
you
like
had a
that, sorry.
sign up saying Supreme Court, didn't you?
Yeah, I did have that, it was there.
Mhm.
Supreme Court. There we go. That will feature later on when Dissent join us for some private burnings. Sorry, we'll go back to Susan. And
so that's the difference. So if you've got a name Stuart and it's S-T-U-A-R-T, that's the French spelling.
well, there you go.
And
Every day's a school day. Every day's a
Aye, there
school
you
day.
go. And of course, we've got a clan badge.
Aye.
So that's our clan badge with the nest and it's supposed to be an egret, I think it is. And it says Vericit Vulnere Virtus. Now, most clan badges were just really threats, weren't they? You know, they were just like, you know, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough kind of thing, you know. And this one's no different. So this one is courage grows strong at a wound, which basically means if you hurt me, I'll end you.
Right.
That's what that means.
An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That kind of
know, if you hurt me or mine, that's it. I'm going to have the courage to be able to knock you out. And so, with all this procreation going on, there was lots of branches of the Stuarts all over Scotland. So you had the Stuarts of Appin, the Stuarts of Athol, Stuarts of Arran, Strathearn, you had the Stuarts of Strathspey, East Lothian, Renfrewshire, and of course the Stuarts of Bute. And with that came a lot of tartans. Now, do you know how many tartans? Have a guess at how many tartans the Stuarts?
I'm going to guess it's quite a common name. Goes quite back quite some time. I'm going to say there's about 20. 25.
Well done. Well done. There's 30. Over 30.
Oh,
over 30. But that's mostly because of these two guys behind you. Now that's John and Charles Allen Stuart Sobieskis. Now they were two English brothers. And in the 1830s, they decided to come up to Scotland to settle. And they were really doing that to escape debt that they'd written up in England. And they came up and they changed their names from Allen to Stuart Sobieskis, and they were quite opportunistic. What they did was they pretended that they had some sort of connection to Bonnie Prince Charlie, and that they were exiled from France, you know, and they were really Stuarts. And so, but what they were there to do was to be a sort of PR exercise for the tailoring industry and our tweed industry. And what they did was they designed and thought up out of thin air the tartans. They wrote a book, created a book called The Costumes of Scotland. And in it was all the tartans, and they had just designed all the colours and all the patterns and everything. So it just came from these two guys. So when you look at tartans, they're not really historical. If you think to before the 1700s, anybody's tartan would have been checked, but it wouldn't have been as sophisticated as they are today when you see all the bright colours and stuff like that. You know, would have been very muted colours, and they wouldn't have been as bright and you know, have the modern weaving tactics that they had in the 1830s.
I mean, it's formed part of Scottish culture. The tartan, the kilt, and a part of culture that's been attempted to be banned.
Yeah, that's right. So tartan was banned in after the Culloden. But then, of course, in the 1830s, you know, they started to soften their stance a bit. And one of the Georges, one of the kings, he was quite partial to you know, a bit of Scottish cultural, you know, inflection. He quite liked that kind of thing, you know. So of course the Stuart Sobieskis decided to see if they could make a bit of money out of that. And they absolutely did. They published their book. All the aristocracy in Scotland were blown away by it. They all wanted a bit of tartan. They would just pay anything for it. And it eventually went down to, it came to the attention of the king, and he was mad for it as well. So of course, all these courtiers needed to have some tartan, you know, it was just the in thing, it was trendy, you know, and they made an absolute mint out of it. You know, they did really well out of it. So that's why, and because they are Stuarts, of course, they made more Stuart tartans. And because royalty was connected to the Stuarts, they wanted all the tartans. They wanted the hunting tartan and the dress tartan, and you know, it was just all made up. It's all made up. But today it is part of our culture, and today, you know, the tartan is seen as predominantly Scottish, even although in Ireland they have tartan as well. Maybe not as intricate as ours, but they did have tartan in Ireland too, you know.
The old Celtic cousins or Celtic, whatever, Celtic connections, isn't it?
So,
sorry, on you go, Susan.
Well, thinking about how popular, you said earlier that Stuart was a popular name. So how did we look up to see how popular it was? And you're right enough, it's in the top 10. It lingers round about the 6th or the 7th most popular name in Scotland. And again, that's because they couldn't keep it in their pants back in the day. Hunters and hunters of Stuarts, you know. So there you go. But yeah, so that's
a jolly bunch. What you're saying is that the Stuarts were a jolly bunch.
Oh, aye. Well, they obviously
a fun-loving crew.
Very friendly. You know, they're very, very friendly. When they weren't in battle and chopping your head off and that kind of thing, you know.
It sounds like Scottishness, aye.
Aye, but there you go. That's the history of the Stuarts, and I suppose, you know, who would be Robert the Bruce? I suppose would be, you know, a famous Stuart, and you know, Mary Queen of Scots, she was a Stuart, of course, and you know, so but yeah, it's quite common. There's a lot of Stuarts, isn't there?
Aye, it's a popular name. In Scottish terms, it's a popular name. What about other connections that you might have?
Well, that's it really for the Stuarts. And I am a Stuart, but it's not my. My ancestors come from Skye and from the Highlands, but they're not Stuarts. And the reason they're not Stuarts is because my great-grandfather, when he got married in 1912, he decided to change his name. Now, his name was McCrae. That was his surname. He was born McCrae, and that was his surname. But when he got married to my great-granny, he decided to change his name to his stepfather's name, and he was a Stuart.
Right.
And that's how my family are now Stuarts.
I see.
And so, having a look at the McCraes, it's a tiny wee clan in comparison to the Stuarts, but this is their cap badge, and their motto isn't really that threatening. It's fortitude, which means fortitudin, which means lucky. So they considered themselves lucky, but in history they were known as bodyguards, and you know, they could handle themselves. They were known as the Mackenzie's bodyguards, the McCraes, and they were also known as the Wild McCraes. So there must have been, you know, there must have been a bit of a handful, eh?
They must have been able to look after themselves.
They must have been able to handle themselves, yeah. So yeah, they made a living, but they're not even in the top 50 names of Scotland. So that's how smaller clan they are in comparison to the mighty Stuarts.
When you think of McCrae as well, when you think of recent history, you've got Willie McCrae.
Well, Yeah, that's
Wonder if
really-
that would have been any, if there'd have been any connection
maybe.
to,
Yeah,
at that point.
maybe.
Um,
Maybe. Who knows?
But that's another myth or another legend for another day.
Yes. Yes.
Is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about the clans or say about a message for St Andrew's Day?
No, I think I've bored you long enough, but hopefully that's a wee you know, a wee contribution to your St Andrew's Day night. And I hope you have, and I hope everybody enjoys their night and enjoys their St Andrew's Day. Thanks very much for having me, Peter.
Oh, you're very welcome, Susan. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to hear about the Stuart clan and also to hear about latterly the McRae clan. And the information he gave us was educational, certainly for me. So thanks very much.
Okay.
So we'll just drop that there. Right, folks. So overall, what have you made of the clan so far? Playing in the background, as you'll see, there's a wee video we done. I mentioned earlier on, we've done a wee road trip up to the Highlands, up to Inverness. We've also been joined by Wendy, so I'm going to come to Wendy first of all. Hi Wendy, I know that you've joined us and want to acknowledge that you've joined us. What have you made of what you've seen so far?
Hi Peter, it's been really good. Sorry I missed the first part. I was busy with the dogs.
Aye,
You
you're all
probably
right, these
hear
things happen.
that I'm talking.
Um,
Sorry.
Aye, these things happen. So I seen that you come in, we were talking about clans, etc. Is there anything like you're
There's
aware of clans for
Well,
you?
there was a lot there that I had never heard of, especially the French spelling, the Stuarts. But that's one of the things that gets my goat. It's the spelling, and I'm a MacDonald, MAC, and there's MC, which is Irish, but it just gets my goat about the spelling. But our clan motto is Per Mare, Per Terra, and that means by land and by sea. And as we all know, on the 13th of February 1692, over 30 MacDonalds and associates were brutally murdered. They were murdered for not pledging allegiance to William III and Mary II. And although the Jacobite Rising wasn't as serious a threat, the continued unrest up in the North Highlands, way up. And so the military, they were sent up to deal with it. And but they were also needed for other wars, the war in Flanders. So they wanted to get their guys back to get on with that. But in the 1960, the Scottish government agreed to pay the Jacobite clan chiefs a total of 12,000 in return for swearing allegiance, an oath of loyalty to William and Mary. But there was disagreements on how the money was getting divided out. And by December 1691, nobody had taken the oath. Sorry, as I just flipped my pages. So under pressure from William and the Secretary of State, Lord Stair, he decided to make an example and a warning of further consequences to those that didn't obey. The Glencoe MacDonalds were not the only ones that had failed to meet the deadline. The Kapok MacDonalds did not swear until early February, and no one knows why they had picked on the MacDonalds. They think it was maybe because of their reputation for lawlessness, and that's what made them an easy target. The clan have got about 27 tartans, and the crest is the cross with the hand with the crown underneath. And I'm really proud of being a MacDonald. See, when I get married, I was pure gutted because I knew I was going to lose my second name, although I know I don't have to, but luckily I get divorced and I got my MacDonald back. So that's what I've got to tell you about the MacDonalds.
Wendy, I just put you onto the big screen there. I was playing a wee video in the background, but I wanted to kind of get just you on the main feature for it.
All right, that's cool.
Sorry, I mistimed that.
That was all I wanted to say.
Right. Well, I'm going to play this video. We'll come to Farah next, and last Farah, what she made. What she's seen so far. So Farah. That's you. So of what you've seen so far, what have you made it?
I think it's amazing with all these clans and different family systems. It was amazing listening to Susan talking about the Stuarts and listening to Wendy and talking about her ancestors as well. I've heard a lot about, I've known a few Campbells in my time as well. So they always talk about their past too. And their clan. So I knew the Campbell. That's one of the biggest clans, isn't it, in Scotland?
Well, again, we could have arguments like saying who's the biggest clan, who's so we'll leave it at that and say that there was a lot of big clans and there was some smaller ones. I would like everybody to just open their mic at the minute, please. I'm
always fascinated with this though, because we have, I suppose you can call them tribes or clans, you can call it that if you want. But one of the things I always wanted growing up was freckles and my own tartan as well.
I hate my freckles.
Right. Well, this is something that I'm going to ask. Is that this is something regular or something that was said commonly where I was, Faye. But Wendy, where are you, Faye?
Originally Glasgow.
You're originally from Glasgow. Frankie, where are you, Faye?
Born in Glasgow, brought up just outside Edinburgh, and then Edinburgh itself. Right.
And Farah, what about you? Where are you, Faye?
Glasgow, born and bred. Can't you tell?
Aye, absolutely. Your accent, you can tell in the twang. I just think sometimes it's strange that in asking an innocent question that so much gets made out of it. I just thought I'd bring that taste. Well, I'm going to carry on with the myths part now. This one here, I'll play. It's a wee bit of a story, and it's been edited a wee Tweet Street edit over the top of it for entertainment purposes. So we'll just put this on. All right. Here we go. Oh, I better put the sound on actually.
And not so long ago there was an honest, hard-working labourer called Fergus, toiling away for his farmer boss. It was a tough life, both for Fergus and his master. So Fergus said to the farmer, "We're getting a wee bit low on fuel. We're going to need plenty of warmth for winter coming along. Will you head over to Merlin's Craig and cut up some more peat to dry out?" Now Fergus had never cut around Merlin's Craig before, but it wasn't for him to decide. Packing his shovel and basket onto the farm's only pony, he trekked out over the misty moor towards the lump he was set to dig at. Well, the sooner he got started, the sooner he would be finished. So, with an almighty thump, he sliced the ground with his shovel. He could have sworn he heard something like a little shout over the squelch of peat bog. But it must have been his imagination. Just as he raised his shovel to go again, he heard a little voice from behind him. "Don't you even think about it." Fergus jumped out his skin. There wasn't another person for miles around. Nobody could have snuck up on him that easily. Spinning around, he couldn't see anybody until he looked down. There was a tiny wee woman in a flowing green dress with her arms firmly crossed in anger. And she shouted up at the labourer, "Are you just going to stand there and gawp at me after you've attacked my home? How would you like it if I came and lifted your roof off with a shovel? Put it back, or you'll be sorry." Fergus didn't need told twice. He'd heard stories of the dangers of the fairy folk, although he never truly believed in them until now. Offending them has dire consequences. So he put the peat back, good as new, and he ran off towards the farm with a pony in tow. Well, the farmer, he scoffed at the story. "Pfft, fairies. Aye, right. You've had a few too many drams and now my farm is going to suffer for it. Get back there and get that peat cut. If you don't come back with a full basket, didn't he come back at all? Well, poor Fergus had little choice. He had a wife and children to feed. They were living paycheck to paycheck. He was nervous as he cut into the peat again, making sure to do it at least a few feet away from the last time. And nothing happened. He cut more and more over the next few days, carrying it back to the farm on the pony. But he didn't so much as hear a grumble of discontent from any fairies. Maybe he really had imagined the whole thing. Exactly 1 year had passed, and Fergus had almost completely forgotten about those fairies. He was walking home from the farm that night. It was such a nice evening, he decided to wander the long road past Merlin's Craig. The scars from the peat he had dug out were still there, and he gazed down at them, and he started to feel sleepy. Well, it had been a hard day at work, on a warm day, so, he just sat down for a short nap. But when he awoke, he was in the middle of a ring of fairies, all dancing around him, having the time of their lives. And then out of nowhere, the most beautiful woman Fergus had ever seen in his life stepped into the ring and asked him to dance. He was no dancer, but she wasn't the kind of woman you said no to. They jigged and they reeled, and all thoughts of his family back home slipped from Fergus's mind. All of a sudden, the music came to a stop and the fairies started to disappear inside gaps in the rocks around Merlin's Craig. And Fergus looked on in wonder until he realised that they were dragging him in with them. Inside, he turned to his beautiful dancing partner just to see she had transformed into that wee fairy that had confronted him that same day 1 year ago. "What are you going to do with me?" he stammered. "Only what you deserve for ignoring my warning. You stole our roof and you're not leaving it until it's grown back." Fergus could only sit back and watch as the fairies worked away inside Merlin's Craig. They were writing and sewing, and they made tiny fairy arrows, and he was sure he even saw a whisky still. Barely a day had passed when his fairy captors set him free and on his way back home. Not before making him a promise never to destroy their home ever again. While crawling out the crevice he'd been dragged through, he saw the turf roof really had grown back already. That must be some kind of fairy magic. Eventually, he made it home, although things didn't look quite as he expected. He didn't much time to think about that. He burst through the front door and he started to apologise to his wife. "I'm so sorry, I didn't make it home last night. You must have been worried, but you will never believe where I've been." He started to retell what had happened when a couple of teenagers walked in the room. "Who are these?" Fergus asked. His wife was standing with her mouth hanging open in shock. "Oh, a stupid question, Fergus. They're your children, but it's no wonder you didn't recognise them. You come in here with some made-up story about a night with the fairies and expect me to take you back. You've been gone for 7 years." Well, Fergus kept his promise. And his story is a prime example of why you never mess with fairies and you never, ever go inside a fairy hill.
Right, so
Beautiful.
it's a wee fairy hill in a brook at Loch Ness, which we'll come on to in a wee bit. Right, we're just going to stop that. So, Frank, I'll come to you first of all. I'll ask you, what did you make of the fairies of Merlin's Craig?
Yeah, it's a lovely story, isn't it? You get that same sort of story in lots of countries about the fairies taking somebody and they think they're gone for a day and they're gone for much, much longer.
Aye, it was quite a sweet one, and that was an ancient map or an old map of Lanarkshire, and I circled around about where I was fae in Hamilton, and there was a wee bit in Blantyre as well. Frank, and have you got connections with Blantyre?
I have, yes. Yeah, my great grandmother was one of the widows after the Blantyre mining disaster. There was Scotland's biggest mining disaster where over 200 men and boys were killed in a huge explosion and fire in the mine. And my great grandmother was widowed by that. And the way these women were treated was absolutely horrendous after the disaster. because they immediately had to get out of their houses because the houses were for working miners and there was no longer a working miner there, so they had to go. And I've written about it.
Well, hopefully we'll get to read about it.
I want somebody to make
sooner.
a film of it.
A film of it. Well, there you go. If there's anybody out there, Frankie is looking for somebody to make a film of
I've written it, yeah.
the story that she's written. Right, so to touch back into that, I've got connections with Blantyre also, and connections with the coal mining industry, and I know that there's a memorial in Blantyre for where that accident actually happened. When you're talking about Blantyre and you're not from Blantyre, you call it Blantyre, but when you stay there, like I did, you call it Blantyre, right? So just in case anybody's watching fae Blantyre, well, we've got you there, all right? Just go, oh no, it's Blantyre, it's no Blantyre, right? So just, it's one of the things. Right, so we're going to now come to Farah, who's going to tell us a wee story about a myth. Bobby the Sixth. Is it Bobby the Sixth?
No,
no, Boaban Sith, right? Boaban Sith, right?
It's
okay.
actually pronounced Babin C, so I had to look it up. I had to look that one up.
I hadn't heard of this, so I talk away, and what I'll do is I'll get a wee picture ready in the background. All right.
Right. Okay. You get the picture ready because it's all part of this, you know.
Right. Okay.
So it is spelt Baobhan, then Sith, Sith, but it's the legendary, and it's pronounced Bavin C, and they're also known as the White Women of the Scottish Highlands. Now, this is what they're known as. This is not me putting a colour to it. They're known as the White Women of the Scottish Highlands, and as I tell the story, you'll probably realise why. So they're mystical creatures, supernatural, and they take the form of beautiful women. And sometimes they're known as fairies, I suppose, depending on who's telling the story. If they got away, they probably think they're fairies. And they lurk in the Highlands, waiting to seduce young travellers and drink their blood. So this is why they're probably known as the White Women, because they probably have pale skin. So they lurk in the Highlands, waiting to seduce young travellers, only males, and drink their blood. The Bavin C were generally withdrawn from society, unlike their succubi counterparts. Now, we're talking about supernatural counterparts. They didn't care about power, wealth, or youth. They only cared about feeding. That means feeding their hunger, blood. So they lured young hunters in by inviting them to dance with them, very much like the fairies. So I suppose they used their charm, and they would ask the young men to dance with them. They looked quite attractive. They wore green. So, and what they said that they used their long, sharp fingernails to slit their victims' necks in order to drink their blood. So you can imagine, Peter, while they were dancing, you know, can you imagine that in your head?
I actually, I'm kind of I was a wee bit like transfer. I know this is a cartoon, and this is probably terrible. My wife's watching this, so I'm going to get a doing whatever I say there. But that second picture, that second cartoon, like, I'm thinking that if
and they're dancing away, you know, and you can imagine the long fingernails just going just across.
Aye, and just slicing and then sinking their teeth in, and
well, not teeth. They're using their long fingernails to slice the neck.
All right, so but I thought they might be a wee bit vampirical to drink, to filter the blood through their teeth and all.
They're just sucking it, Peter.
Just sucking it. Right.
Yeah, they're just sucking it. That's right. They're just sucking it.
Right.
Just like a jubilee.
Just like a jubilee, right?
Just like a jubilee. Do you remember that word, Peter? The jubilees.
A jubilee, aye. Remember, if you had a proper jubilee, if you turned it upside down, it was juicier at the bottom, and you ate it for the bottom part.
Exactly.
Aye, I was the same. Right.
Like,
Right, so carry on. Was that you?
no, of course not. No. Legend has it these women had hooves instead of feet, which they kept hidden under their long, beautiful dresses. And unlike their vampire cousins, who were fond of shape-shifting into bats, you know,
Right.
the Bavin favoured the wolf form. So they always had, they were always
see the hooves at the
females.
bottom there, can't you? You can see the hooves at the bottom there.
Yeah, so hooves and like goat's legs.
Aye, that's kind of looks like a leg of lamb underneath that frock.
Well, I mean, the men that were dancing, they might have thought it was the clickety clock of the high heels, you know.
Possibly.
So the Bavin had only two known weaknesses. They had a fear of horses, and they are vulnerable to iron, the only known substance which can kill them. So iron was their kryptonite.
Right. So an iron stake through the chest.
Yeah, I suppose through the chest or anywhere else. It doesn't actually specify.
Right.
So the most popular tale of the Bavin tells the story of a group of young hunters who stopped for the night in a small hunting lodge. The men built a fire, they began eating, drinking, expressing general merriment after a good day's hunt. And they were just thinking to themselves, you know, this is really great. Only if only we had a few women by our sides. And just then, 4 beautiful women stood in the doorway, and they said they were lost in the wilderness, and could they come inside and sit next to them, get some shelter, some food, you know? And the men thought, this is brilliant. You know, good fortune has just fallen at our feet. So they took the women in, and the women then said to them, well, you know, let's dance. So they danced. And what the Bavin did was they danced so much until the men were exhausted. And then they slit their throats. I'm into gore, you know. So this is why I picked this legend.
Al Gore? Are you talking Al Gore, the American?
No, this kind of
gory death, right? Okay,
gory
cool.
death, yeah, this vampire. This is why I picked this legend. So this is what they got them so tired, you know, with the dancing. I can just kind of imagine it. The guys put their head on the shoulder, you know, they were so tired, and then this is it. They went for the kill.
Right. Well, I'll need to watch and make sure, if we're about you, that your nails aren't too long and you ask me to dance.
No, they're cut. They're cut.
Right. I'm just
so only one man got away. So the myth has it only one man got away.
I know that is the myth, and I was wanting to stop that before the end of that myth came out, because better cover that up. Right. Anyway. Right. Thanks very much for that, Farah. That was a very informative piece. We're going to finish up this part here. Hold on a wee second. We'll stop. We're going to finish up this part with.
Can I just say something before you finish up?
Of course.
Sorry, Tracy.
It's all right. She's not on yet. When you go. Oh. Hello. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was apologising to Tracy.
Oh, sorry. Right, okay, cool. Sorry, I missed that there. I was trying to set up the next bit there, and I've obviously missed that part. Right, so I took a wee road trip to Inverness, and I was going to cover, obviously, myths and legends. We've got the legend of, sorry, I'm skipping ahead of myself here. We've got the legend of the Dundee Dragon, which I'll share with you in just a wee second, folks. I don't know if you've heard of the Dundee Dragon. Anybody?
No heard of it.
No heard of it. Right. So somebody on Twitter, Scotland Stories, Graham on Twitter, shared the story about the Dundee Dragon. So let me inform you of what it is. Over 1,000 years ago, a shadow fell across the countryside around Dundee. Nobody knew exactly what had changed, but they could feel it in the air. Livestock started disappearing, and strange distant noises were heard in the night. One morning, a farmer from, I might get this wrong here, Pittington, sent the eldest of his 9 daughters to fetch water from a nearby well. Impatiently, he soon sent another daughter after her. Neither returned, but too busy to look himself. One by one, the girls disappeared, searching for their sisters. Eventually, the farmer realised something was wrong and went after his 9 daughters to the well himself. He was met with a horrific sight. His daughters had been killed by a terrifying dragon, and the farmer was lucky to escape with his own life. Sprinting into town, he screamed the news to everybody he passed, and Martin, the town's blacksmith, was heartbroken. He was betrothed to the farmer's eldest daughter, and definitely wasn't the kind of man who ran away from danger. Picking up a fresh sword, the angry smith jumped on his horse and sped off towards the dragon's lair. Martin fought the beast with all the fury you can imagine. The dragon had met its match. The beast tried to flee across the hills, but the young man refused to let it escape. A crowd had gathered to watch the spectacle, and as he battled with the monster, they shouted, "Strike, Martin!" With a final thrust of his sword, Martin pierced the dragon's heart, and it staggered a few paces before toppling over, laying its head on a rock. The legend claims that the battlefield was named Strike Martin, which developed to Strathmartin around Dundee, and you can still find Pitterton Road, Baldrigan Wood, and the remains of a carved Martin stone in a field. Spot on the horseback and the serpent dragon is below. In the centre of Dundee, you can't miss the enormous dragon statue in the centre of the high street. I have no idea why it was there as a child, they continue to say, but I hope some of the thousands who walk past every day are curious enough to look up the story of the Dundee dragon. And then people start commenting about, I wonder if Nine Maidens pub has anything to do with it. So what I'll do is I'll do a wee screen share of the dragon for any of our interested viewers. Just to show that this actually is somewhere. This is the stone that it was supposed to have laid its head upon. Here.
Cool.
If we go to the next one, I don't know how to do it. Let's go if we do that. And this is the dragon. So that's the dragon wrapped in a bit of pole of some sort. So that's the story of the Dundee Dragon, folks. Aye, so we're going to carry on with the legend of Loch Ness, and we're starting to get people joining us from representatives of some representatives of dissent. That will be joining us as we do go to burning articles to the Supreme Court, People's AS30, the Scotland Act, no, the People's AS30, the S30, Section 30 of the Scotland Act, sorry. The claim of right, potentially, of another country, you know what I mean? The Declaration of Arbroath, the 1320, we're not going to be representative as sovereign Scots, so we've got all that to kind of a look forward to, but we'll just finish up with the clans, myths and legends as we have a wee look at. This is video footage that I took. All the footage that's on that was for the House of Brewer, etc. It was just on my journey to Inverness. So here we go. Raybrook. The stream. Side of Loch Ness. So this is Loch Ness. Clans, myths and legends. Tweed Street, Scotland's St Andrew's Day special. We're looking for Nessie. We're looking for Nessie. Give us a shout if you see her. Him. That. Don't know what it is. Don't know what she is. What he is. So, a wee bit. Tracy, can you take her for a wee second, please? Tracy, can you take her for a wee second, please, while I go to the loo?
No.
What do you mean, no?
No, you
Come on,
can't.
Tracy.
But how? I'm in my own house.
You're not allowed. You can't.
Right, okay.
Further up.
He's allowed to go. He's a sovereign Scot.
He canny.
You got
Just hand him a carrot
Rainbow.
then.
So this is just Loch Ness. Full screen burial ground. One. Just going to do me too. Being respectful, obviously. That's done looking like Loch Ness there. So yeah. It's like a burial ground.
That is lovely there, so it is.
Intrusive.
I think so as well, Wendy. There's no editing on this. This is all just raw footage of the place. Know what I mean? I didn't even have to edit in here.
Shore of the loch.
Look, it's all just natural footage, as you'll see in a wee second.
Aye.
Ruin there. Slimy. So I'm reporting for Loch Ness in Scotland, and I don't know if you can see the rainbow there. At the back of me, just coming out the loch. Aye. So there you go. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this, but I actually found the end of the rainbow in Loch Ness. Or is that the beginning of the rainbow? There you go, clans, myths and legends. The beginning or end of the rainbow is at Loch Ness in Scotland. Couldn't find Nessie, but we did find a rainbow that started here. Isn't that beautiful? That's fantastic. Look at that. Would you look at that? As if it's coming right out of Loch Ness. The start of the rainbow. I'm going to actually show you the arc of that, look. Isn't that beautiful? So Tweed Street, Scotland, clans, myths and legends, the start of the rainbow or the end of the rainbow is at Loch Ness in Scotland. Wow.
You should have got your snorkel on and went and found out if that was the end of the rainbow. There could be a pot of gold there.
Well, that's it. See, I was actually thinking because I was right in line with the end of the rainbow that I was the pot of gold.
Magic.
Nobody came to find me. You know what I mean? Nobody came to find me, which was a disappointment, right? So we'll stop back there. We'll stop back share. Because we're just finished up with clans, myths and legends. Sorry, we're running a wee bit late for the folk for descent joining us as we go to the burns across the country. I was like taken by that. I was taken by just the rainbow coming out of Loch Ness. It was such a beautiful day. We had been and seen obviously we were at Inverness as well. And we done a live stream as Inverness done the Wellbeing Ness Bridge Walk, and we joined them round about that. Judith and Graham say hi to Graham and hope pass my best on to his wife Jackie as well. So I'm going to just finish up that Clans Myths and Legends, and then we'll go to Luke, who's going to make a statement, I believe, first of all, and I'll try and display on screen. Well, I'll display Luke on screen as we go to the burn, and so we'll finish this wee bit up here, right? So this was the well, no, it's Luke. Sorry, it's Luke that's coming first. Sorry. Right, Luke, you're on first. So please fire in. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Right,
That's you,
Here.
buddy.
off the mute now.
Yep.
So, as sovereign Scots, we do not recognise the ruling handed down by the so-called Supreme Court of the UK. As sovereign Scots, we recognise Scots law as only law. As sovereign Scots, we and only we will determine the future of our proud and ancient nation of Scotland. As sovereign Scots, we do not accept and reject a devolved government's position that Scotland is a de facto colony of England. Today, we use our rights to protest through Scotland's claim of right. Therefore, we put the ruling to the fire in absolute rejection. With this act, we call on all sovereign Scots to unite and stand up for Scotland in dissent.
Thank you. Look, I'll now let you proceed with yours, and I'll get into position to carry on with my burning in a wee second.
Right. I'll move my light a wee bit. You can see a wee bit better the fire's going out. But well, it's not going out in a second, so I don't need to add anything to it. So here we have the ruling. Judgment, referenced by the Lord Advocate of Devolution issues under paragraph 34 of Schedule 6 of the Scotland Act 1998. Lord Reid, President. Lord Lloyd Jones, Lord Sales, Lord Stevens, Lady Rose. Judgment given on the 23rd of November 2022, 1 week ago. As sovereign Scots, we reject this judgment. Yeah, we're putting it in the fire.
Good enough for it.
All right, if you talk again, look.
That's it in the fire now.
If you can put the camera down and show us.
We're not having a London court basically tell us what we can and can't do. We are a fucking nation that's been about since basically about 900 AD. So, you know, it's just not going to happen. Here we go. We've got your ruling burning there.
Well, I'm going to move into position now, and I'm going to also just do a wee burning as well. So if you give us a wee second, folks.
It's a slow burner, this one. So it's like the same as the bonfire, the vanities after poke it a wee bit or something, but it's getting there, it's getting there.
As long as it burns, eh?
Yeah, what's it? I think it was 35 pages in total. So yeah, it's getting there. I'll move my light a bit more so you can see it.
I do not. Oh, hold on. What's happened to the picture? Is off. So, I do not consent to the Supreme Court ruling.
The lighter does not consent.
The lighter's a bastard. You fuck off.
Is it a UK
Try
lighter?
me.
Probably.
Aye. Oh, you've got the Scotland Act, Section 30. Yeah. Go with it. This is a fucking disaster. You fuck off.
Live TV.
Live. Come on.
Should have had your fire burning before, mate. Look.
Best laid plans. You got it.
I love the burning smell of British imperialism.
Nothing like the smell of burning drugs in the morning.
No what about
British
myself.
paperwork in the morning.
The safety is paramount.
There we go.
So I do not consent to your Supreme Court ruling. That's your Scotland Act, Section 30. In there and all. Under the claim of right, the Declaration of Arbroath, 1320, Sovereign Scots. This is the St Andrew's Day response. So I'm just going to switch back again. So look, I'll back to you for a wee comment if you don't mind.
No. That's exactly it. This is the Sovereign Scots St Andrew's Day response. Yeah, we're not going to have this. We will not be treated as a colony anymore. It's time for Scots to get together in a people's movement, to sign liberation.scot and get out, protest, get in the streets every weekend, every day, whenever you can. Basically, we need to push and push and push to get our independence. You know, we want to do it by non-violent means, so we have to do it basically as a country and get out there. That's the only way that we can do it.
Right. We're now going to say thanks very much to Luke for the minute, and we're going to go to Farah, who's got a burning that she's going to do personally in Glasgow. Hopefully, it goes better than mine.
Oh.
So, Farah, your camera's off. By the looks of it.
I just did it.
Oh, sorry, did I miss it? Did you do it at the same
Yes.
time as mine?
Yes.
You should have been talking. Your camera's on the other way now. I can't see you.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. Sorry, I missed it there, Farah. It must have been when I was having that debacle to try to get mine set on fire.
It was in a pot in the sink.
I see. It's about I was trying to maintain safety. And I wasn't want to light a big fire that was going to end up burning all night in that big drum. So I thought I'll do it in the wee bin. But I didn't have a spare lighter or anything. It was in the lighter was just with me performing the way it should. But anyway, these things happen. We got it done. Determination. That's what it's all about. So we're going to play finish up really with this a wee short clip here, and then we'll get everybody's overall thoughts and final thoughts. Oh no, we've got a song as well. Frankie, what did you not remind me for? Hold on, let's not do that then. Let's do the song first. Right, because we're away past the bit for the song. Or the first part. So we'll do that. Right, let me do that first. Frankie, you should have piped up about with no singing, because I forgot about the song. Right,
I'm a shy, modest, retiring soul, you know.
Aye, so yeah. Vulgar Vandals. I'm going to be like volunteering a wee bit of my time to try and do get some help with Vulgar Vandals. can you give the folk an idea of what some of the things that we might be getting up to, or whatever?
Whatever. Anything.
Anything.
Just about anything. Yeah.
Just about anything.
Anything theatrical, street theatre. I'd love to do a tour of Yes hubs. If you've got a Yes hub that you want some people to come and do some stuff at, that would be great. At the moment, we're kind of scattered, so it's relying on technology to do stuff, which is a bit difficult for some people. So it would be nice to actually do stuff together in the same room, you know.
Aye, see, that's it. It's getting, especially with where we are around about the country, because we're pretty much scattered. Luke's up in the north, you're in Edinburgh, we've got Farah in Glasgow, Wendy, aye, we're not too far apart. So we could, aye, we've got
Dumbarton,
so
all over.
It's trying to organise as best we can to do something, but that's where.
But I write songs, as you know. I'm writing songs all the time.
Aye, well, it's like having the group like the Vulgar Vandals, and having somebody that's well organised. So with that well organised, and with Frankie saying that she likes songs, what we're going to do is we're going to play Frankie's latest release. And where is it? That's that. There we go.
It really was a daft idea to ask the bullies, UK bullies. Their answer always would be clear, because they're bullies, UK bullies. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots and we'll stand up to you. Westminster thinks that they have won. UK bullies, but we have only just begun to stand up to bullies, UK bullies. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots and we'll stand up to you. This is no a union, it's a jail. UK bullies, but if we're strong we will not fail. So stand up to bullies, UK bullies. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots and we'll stand up to you. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots and we'll stand up to you. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots and we'll stand up to you. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots and we'll stand up to you.
Right, so that was Frankie's song. Frankie, that was really good. Thanks very much for allowing us to share that with everybody.
That was brilliant.
That was really good.
Aye, thanks very much.
I loved it.
Aye, it's a catchy wee tune when we get it for Christmas #1, huh?
Yeah, good, Frankie. I like your wee songs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
I don't think I could compete with Cliff Richard though for Christmas #1.
You wouldn't want to.
No, you wouldn't. No, right. That's another subject. The First Minister might be heavily involved in. Well, associations with the Americans. But that's something else. What happened? We'll talk about Mr. Nicholson after.
Maybe
mate,
more Peter's thing, like
but-
Peter
what's that?
Morell. More Peter Morell than fucking.
Well,
Bleep.
there's again, there's all of these myths and legends that, and it's the perfect night for clans, myths and legends, and St Andrew's night to talk about some Scottish legends. The legend of the non-conspiracy, the legend of the £600,000, the legend
The
of
Lavender legend.
Indirect 2, 3 and 23.
I was
Everybody-
just thinking, listening to Farah's story about the people who, what was it? It was iron that was their kryptonite. Well, is that an iron that people would throw at them?
Well, but I don't know if it maybe Iron Man, maybe it's Iron Man. I don't know. But there's a load of myths and a load of legends that like obviously, I mean, there's a legend.
You're sharp,
There used to
Frankie,
be
very sharp.
A new Scottish sport like iron throwing.
Well, like,
Get in the Olympics.
we've had caber tossing and stuff like that. We've had all that kind of a
Yeah,
stuff.
throw the fucking iron. Oh, I keep,
Please.
sorry. I keep
Please.
doing.
There's all these myths and all these legends, as I say, right? There's also, by the way, the information about Clan Bartley that Frankie shared earlier on came from the affiliate of the Clan Bartley, Tim Bartley. Thanks very much for the information. Frankie also added their own information, we have our own research on top of that, so thanks very much to the contributions that have been made. I'm just going to some of the comments that are coming in online. Thanks very much to everybody that's joined us online. First of all, I know I've not really referenced too much. I've been trying to keep up with what's happening here. So there's also a legend that Scotland used to be a country, like, because where are we now? It's like I don't want to sound like that Delia Smith. Was it Delia Smith in Norwich? The Norwich City chairwoman, when she's like, where are you? Where are you? You know what I mean? But like Sovereign Scots, like St Andrew's Day response, if you want to do your own private burnings and send them in, we can edit them and put them onto an overall edit of this. We're going to finish up because we went to the wife and I need to, when I say we, my wife is the driver. She takes me everywhere and kind of looks after me, and she doesn't get enough credit.
Mine too. Like I can't drive, so anywhere I need to go.
Oh, well, I can drive,
Yeah.
but just because for other reasons that whatever that she does the driving, and it's down to her that gets me about to all the places that I go to. So I want to say a big thank you to her. But I'm going to share with you now our last wee trip where we went to the Inverness.
Yeah, it was really good meeting you two.
Aye,
And you just came up to the Highlands.
So here was just a wee 5-minute clip towards the end, and to give you a wee bit of feel, because the rest of the information, the rest of the stream is on the YouTube channel. So I'll share this with you. It's a wee 5-minute section, just to give you a feel for people doing a wellbeing walk and raising awareness for the Scottish plight for freedom. So. Thanks, Jacqueline, sorry. Yeah. We'll see. We've got the world's strongest man in Scotland today and all. There he is. Just tore a bit of granite, eh?
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
See
See you later. Thank you. And that's us pretty much back to the Inverness hub. So we're going to go in and maybe get a wee refreshment, hopefully. So we've got Luke here, who he said once he'd woke up a wee bit. You want to talk to folk?
Suppose I could try and say a few words.
Well, here you go then, mate. Just what's your thoughts?
I think the Supreme Court judgment was an absolute disgrace. Denying Scotland a democracy and a sovereignty is basically the actions of a colonial power, and we would not stand for it anymore. You know, people of Scotland need to get into dissent.
Aye. What did you make of the day's tournament, mate?
It was really good. It was good turnout. People all through the town were supporting it. It was excellent. Like,
Aye.
I'm a bit exhausted now. I've got a bit of a sore throat from shouting. But
Aye, it was good to see like-minded folk on the streets, and we got, as you say, a fair bit of support on the way run.
Yeah.
All the way run, so that was good. Right, I'll let you go on the new then, look. Right, so that's where this is Inverness, the Inverness hub in Huntley Street in Inverness. If you're in the area, stop in. I'll find out their opening times and I'll try and let you know. I think on a Saturday it's maybe, I don't know, I'm not to commit to times and it's rang, but I'll find it once we get there. A fair wee turnout. I've seen some comments, people saying that we should be doing this across Scotland. We should be. At the end of the day, look, we're always got to be told what to do otherwise, and always got to have to accept it otherwise. But when you're voted repeatedly to have the chance to democratically see yourself with an opportunity to escape the madness, and it doesn't happen, and like, to be fair, the person that's in charge isn't the right person, if you ask me. Well, no further forwards 8 years down the line. Martin Keating's took a case, the People's AS30, and pretty much knew it was going to happen. On this case that the First Minister insisted on taking to a court in a foreign land for a decision. So we need to kind of 1955 was the last time Scotland voted for a Tory government, and they've been dwindling. Labour voted in 2014. Labour started shouting 10 deals with Tories, selling Tory lies in 2014 for the referendum, and caused a lot of the pain that sovereign Scots are feeling today. So I'm just going to get the picture. Aye, so for 2014 we stayed here. The old monarch died, new monarch, although he's not officially been coronated yet. First act is for his court to tell Scotland to shut up. Remember that.
Right, we can't see past the grey door, so if you just move in a wee bit, Callum, and anybody beyond Callum needs to come to the front, okay? Keep going or come to this side. I'll see if I can get some sense.
Right, so that was at the Inverness hub. So we'll just stop that share there. Look, you were on that, so I'll come to you first of all, mate.
Yeah. That was
again,
me.
It was a good wee day. It was a good wee walk.
It was a brilliant day. I loved it. Like you see that I was having a wee dance and everything going through the town. It was brilliant. Like,
for anybody who's not seen the recorded live stream that we've done of it, there's some really nice moments in it. It involves trumpeting. It involves a piper playing Flower of Scotland.
Yeah.
In the town, and this was all like, and this wasn't a big like super arranged. It was a well arranged thing. I must give Judith and Graham, everybody that arranged it, their credit. But it was a very short walk round about the town, and it was just raising awareness. And the amount of people that were tooting their horns and shouting messages of support, and some coming around saying, "Oh, well done for coming out." It was happening, and that's the thing when the Saltires.
Yeah, you don't need huge marches. You know, you just need a bunch of people who actually want to get out there, like on the weekends. You don't need to ask for permission. You don't need to give notification. You just walk along the pavement, stick to at least two abreast. Don't get in the way of other people and that. You can carry your flags, carry your banners, and you can do it. Just get out there and do it. And the more people that do it, the more people that will do it more, and it will just grow and grow and grow.
So about the visual impact.
Aye, Wendy, absolutely. But it's that the old adage, out of sight, out of mind. And like,
yeah.
I didn't agree.
We can't be out of sight anymore.
I know. I mean, we've already had cancellations of this, that, and the next thing, and all it does is it wanes the spirit of people, because there's oh, hold on, is this one got to go ahead? There's no time like the present to take what's rightfully yours, and that's the freedom that we're entitled to as sovereign Scots. There's
the Scottish people are sovereign.
You've got the resources of Scotland that should be used for the benefit of the Scottish people, getting used for the benefit of the Western elite, bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats, and all, and the WEF, the World Economic Forum, a digital prison that's coming here next year. So we're supposed to be free. We're supposed to be free in 23, and everybody who perpetrated that lie has some responsibility to bear on that, because there were some that had said that this isn't going to happen. We should be exploring other avenues, and some have been trying to explore other avenues. However, it seems to be a middle class operation. The working class people are forgotten about, other than if, oh well, hold on, we'll go and get a photo op at
the working class are painted as bigots and right wing.
You've got homeless people in Glasgow that are struggling. People are struggling to feed. Well, we're sending arms to a war that we shouldn't be supporting, and it's an absolute disgrace that Scottish people are starving and they're suffering as a result. That's my tuppence worth on it. And else what I say before I play the final clip?
I was just going to say, it makes you so bloody angry, doesn't it?
Aye.
No, it's like the whole thing has been made into an industry rather than a people's movement, and it's become the whole third sector, the charity sector, the independence industry, and they're all just linked in, and it's all middle class fucking nonsense. Sorry for swearing again, but
right.
At
the end of the day,
this is not Scotland. They are not Scotland. Scotland is the people. Scotland is the working class, the actual people on the ground. And it's time that they actually said, no, we're not going to stand for this anymore.
Right.
Totally agree.
There's too many people trying to tell you to shut up and don't say this and don't say that and don't say the next thing. Die quietly, Scotland. Well, that's what that is. Die quietly.
They didn't work the other night at the thing with Nicola Sturgeon. They tried to make, you're not allowed to talk about this. And I don't know who the woman was that stood up and called her out and said, shame on you. But that is, that was good. Right? And that's what we need to do. We need to call them out every opportunity we get.
We do.
And that's why we're in this situation, because we haven't called them out. Well, we have, but more people need to call them out.
Aye, there are certain people that
need to get
would probably make excuses for Nicola Sturgeon slaughtering babies on the stage. You know what I mean? That's unfortunately where we're at as a country, because 8 years down the line, when we should be free and making our way as a fledgling new nation, because we were a nation before, we're still a nation even though they try and say that we're no. Obviously,
never stop being a nation.
The legend for this one is that they try and say that we're not a nation. Scotland doesn't
You
exist.
can't stop being a nation, you know.
Aye, we existed before, long before we're neighbours. In respect to that, for anybody who didn't see the Nicola Sturgeon clip, or Nicola Sturgeon getting a wee bit of heat in a well-selected audience, which is another thing, was pointed out, as Luke says, try to control the conversation, to exclude again women because she believes that they're not valid, women's concerns are not valid. And this is just a short clip with a wee Tweet Street edit. So here we go.
I've not seen this.
Shame on you! You fermented this culture in Scotland that basically tells women are bigoted for standing up for women's rights. I see you, and thousands of women around Scotland see you as well. And those of you who are sitting here complicit, keeping your mouths shut while women have actually been raped by males who have self-ID'd as women, and that's got nothing to do with trans rights. And I support trans rights and have done for 3 decades now, and I'll continue to. But
good honour.
Yes.
So that was just a short clip. The clip was a lot longer, folks. It's been on for, I think, about 5 minutes or something like that. Oh.
Shame on you!
I'll stop that.
No, it's like about a week or two ago. There was a Scottish feminist confronted them at some award show as well.
Aye, that's right. On the approach to it, they were stood on the approach.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the images of it. But again, I think it's appalling, the fact all of the admissions that are coming out about the trans lobby, the way they're trying to push sterilisation on young kids, queer theory in schools. There's a demonic approach to Scotland by the First Minister, and it's against the Christian values that Scotland.
You're making me. I'm not a Christian.
Do you disagree? So. Even with St Andrew, whose bones were brought here to Fife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the cross,
there's Christianity as it was, and there's Christianity today, and they're very different things. So.
Aye, but again, you've got the two arguments, and you can't just shut one side of it down. It's got to be heard, just the same as Nicola Sturgeon saying that this isn't valid. Other people have got their beliefs and their faith systems that they feel as if anybody else that speaks out against another religion or another faith, they get castigated. But when it's the Christian faith, you've got no response.
Yeah,
so there should be a fair response.
Like in, the whole GRR thing, and they're not like accepting, like especially the Muslim faith, that you know, men can't like see women that are unclothed and all that, and I think it's the same for some other ones as well.
But Scotland has many cultures, so it's not a case of everybody. All these cultures
can't make people
merge. You can't now say, oh well, we're excluding this, we're excluding that, we're excluding the next thing. So everybody's voice has got a right to be heard.
You've got freedom of expression, freedom of speech. You should be allowed to have them.
Aye. Farah, you're on mute. I don't know if you're trying to say something, but it's...
Forget religion. We're talking about family values, right? Okay. Now, people with children, whether they're how do we say it? A nuclear family, single parent families, mum and a dad, or a dad and a mum and a mum, right? Now, it's all about protection of values. Right? How do we want our children brought up? Who teaches our children? Is it the state?
Yeah.
Or is it the parents? Who makes the choice?
Yeah.
I would say, under the Education Act, and parental responsibilities and everything else, and human rights, it's the parents. Up to the age of 25, you're financially responsible
the
for
UN
your
rights
child.
of the child. The parents have to be absolutely involved in everything.
It's not the state. By law, it's not the state. It is the family. It's the parents. It's the biological parents. It's it's the adoptive parents, if they're adopted. It's the next of kin. It is not the state. The state cannot get involved with the upbringing of, the child. Interfere, and then it comes into religious beliefs as well. How I choose to bring up my child, or how somebody else chooses. Now, I get this constantly. Now, if I have a view on, say, the gender recognition certificate, you know what I get thrown in my face? Oh, it's because you're a Muslim. Well, let me just tell you, there's people out there of Jewish faith, Christianity, Sikh, or somebody who's not of any religion, who's an
pagan,
atheist, who's an atheist, who also have similar views as myself, who support women and children.
Yeah, I get annoyed often that people, not everybody, but some people who have a religion think they are the only ones with ethical standards. You don't have to you don't have to believe in some supernatural being that will come and clobber you if you misbehave to have ethical standards. Some of us have ethical standards because we think that's the right thing to do.
No, but the thing is, Frankie, it's not up to the state. Now,
No.
Big Brother it's just like overreach, and it shouldn't be allowed. With education, with the work, it's just a total overreach. And now it's the digital IDs as well. It was with the COVID jabs too, and now it's digital IDs. It's overreach.
We all know that the education that
they're trying to control life is.
Sorry, I was saying, we all know that things do go in the schools that parents don't need to be told about. I'm glad my kids don't go to a school in this day and age, because I want to know every detail of my kids' life, and also see like religion and all that. And this is just my opinion. See all these big high up ones, they're the biggest hypocrites. So they are, and they use religion to hide behind. Not everybody, but a few of them. And I would rather trust somebody with tattoos and earrings and scarves rather than somebody that's into some religion and whatever. That's just my opinion.
Religion should be taught by the family members at home.
Yeah.
It should be in the home. But the state should not interfere. They're not allowed to go into somebody's personal house and interfere. They should only be teaching a curriculum education. Yeah. They shouldn't be teaching queer theory, gender ideology to young kids, toddlers.
They're confused enough.
They have to teach basically how to think and not what to think.
There's no critical thinking anymore.
Yeah. This is what you have to do, and that's it. Basically, that's what it's taught.
They don't teach kids the value of money or the value of finance and the right things.
How to manage money.
How to manage in the modern world. You know what I mean? It's like the curriculum needs to be addressed, definitely. What we'll do is we'll finish up with this wee video here, which will finish up with Clans, Myths and Legends for this evening.
So, Tweed Street, Scotland, the shores of Loch Ness, for Clans, Myths and Legends, St Andrew's Day special. We found a rainbow further up, which was good. We've no fun, Nessie. The legend continues. So that's where we're at. Loch Ness shores for Tweed Street, Scotland. Hope we've enjoyed this evening's special.
Right, so we're going to play it because people have been asking for Frankie's song again. People online liked it, so we're going to give Frankie's song another wee airing. I'll just line that up, and Frankie will get you back on. Hold on.
Frankie, see when it says bleep, can you fill in the missing words?
The word is bleep. That's the word I wrote. I obviously have no control over sometimes people if they don't quite remember the lyrics right. You know, I have no control over that, but the word is bleep.
Do you want to fill it in with another word, Frankie?
I want children to sing it, and you know, and people to sing it in front of their kids.
Kids are in bed now, Frankie. It's nearly 9 o'clock.
Mind you, many of the kids could teach us quite a few words.
Yeah. If we go with the fact that if we run with bleep for the family times, and as Frankie says, if you can feel free to sing in your own time, your own word.
Well, spoiler.
Are we all going to sing it once, like?
Well, let's the words are on screen. If you can read them, then sing along.
Oh, Jesus.
It really was a daft idea to ask the bullies, UK bullies, their answer always would be clear, because they're bullies, UK bullies. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots, stand up to you.
This is brilliant, this.
Westminster thinks that they have
Carlton
won.
karaoke.
UK bullies, we have only just begun to stand up to bullies, UK bullies. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots, stand up to you. This is no union, it's a jail. UK bullies, if we're strong we will never fail, so stand up to bullies, UK bullies. Who the beat do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots, we'll stand up to you.
Stand up to you.
Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots, we'll stand up to you. Who the bleep do you think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots,
we'll stand up to you.
Yay! You think you are? Call yourselves the Supreme Court, do you? You've no right to tell us what to do. We're sovereign Scots, we'll stand up to you.
Sovereign Scots will stand up to you.
Who the hell do you think you are?
By the way, hold on, wait a minute, I'm getting everybody on screen here. Right, wait a minute, because that was magic. Honestly, God,
my dogs are gone mental.
Brilliant.
Your dogs are gone mental. There's
That's because Wallace heard me.
That was good. Right, there you go. If we've not made you laugh at that with that vulgar vandal's performance, a wee bit of dissent, a wee bit of Tweet Street. So I'm going to say, Frankie, just give us a wee quick good night for everybody.
Good night. Thank you for being here. Thank you, and good night.
That was such a melodious voice, Frankie. You're brilliant. Bleep.
Wendy,
bleep.
Quick good night, please.
Good night, everybody. And like my MacDonald clan, my ancestors, I'll always be lawless, and I'll never comply, and I'll never swear allegiance to the king.
Absolutely. Look, I'll give you a wee chance to say a final goodbye, mate.
Good night to everybody, Sovereign Scots and everyone. Happy St Andrew's Day. It's been fucking brilliant.
And Farah.
Happy St Andrew's Day and anarchy.
Anarchy in the UK.
The UK doesn't exist, right? We'll give that a bang,
yes, that's it.
No,
our UK.
The final word in Plans, Myths and Legends. we had a wee bit of a joke about the myth that Scotland isn't a nation. Scotland is one of the oldest nations on the planet. It's time that it stood alone in freedom and leading the new world. There we go. I'll never comply. So we're going to end the live stream there, folks. Good night for everybody.